If your project explanation in an interview starts with something like AWS, Spark, SQL, and Airflow, I need to tell you something honestly. That's not a project explanation. That's a tool list with confidence issues. And this is where a lot of otherwise decent candidates fail interviews. Not because the project is bad, because the way they explain it makes it sound smaller, weaker, and less real than it actually is. So let's fix that. Hello everyone, welcome to Big Data Factory. I am Ranit and I have 4 plus years of experience working as a data engineer. If this is your first time visiting this channel, don't forget to subscribe for more content on big data and real world insights. In this video, I am going to show you how to explain a data engineering project in interviews in a way that sounds clear, structured, and real. And I will also show you the cross questions interviewers usually ask right after, because that's where people usually get stuck. And instead of making you wait till the end for the useful part, let me show you what a strong project explanation sounds like first. If I had built an end-to-end e-commerce analytics pipeline, I would explain it like this. I built a batch data pipeline where raw order, customer, and payment data landed in S3. I used Spark to clean, join, and transform that data into curated tables for analytics. Then, I used SQL on top of those outputs to answer business questions like daily sales, repeat customers, and product performance. One challenge was handling delayed source data, so I had to think about safe reruns and avoiding duplicate records. That answer already sounds way better than I used Spark, AWS, and SQL in my project. Why? Because now the interviewer can see what the project was, how data moved, what the output was, and where the engineering thinking happened. That's the difference. So let's break this down into a structure that actually you can use. The first thing you should explain is what problem the project was solving. Not the tools, not the architecture diagram, the problem. Because good projects are built for a reason. So instead of starting with I used AWS S3, start with my project was about building a pipeline to process raw e-commerce data and turn it into analytics ready output. Now I know the purpose. That matters because interviewers are not hiring someone to use tools. They are hiring someone to solve a data problem. Second, explain where the data coming from and where it landed first. This part should sound like movement. For example, I had separate raw data sets for orders, customers, products, and payments. I treated them like data coming from different systems and stored them in S3 as a raw layer before doing any transformation. That sounds much stronger than I had some CSV file. Why? Because now it feels like a pipeline, not a homework file. And this is where a lot of people miss easy points. They jump straight into the transformed output and skip the raw layer completely. But in data engineering, raw storage matters. Preserving source data before transformation shows that you understand how pipelines should be structured. Third, explain what's happening in processing. This is the Spark part, and this is where you should sound like someone who understands data, not like someone who copy-pasted the notebook. So, you say something like, I used Spark to clean nulls and bad records, standardize data types, join order data with customer and product information, and created curated tables that could be used downstream. That's clean. And if you want to make it stronger, add one engineering detail. For larger volumes, I would also think about partitioning, joining strategy, and avoiding unnecessary shuffles. That line is simple, but it adds maturity immediately. You are showing that you don't just know how to make the code run, you know how it would behave when the data grows. Fourth, explain what came out of the pipeline. This is where a lot of project explanations die. People say the project was completed. Okay, and then what? You need to show the data became useful. For example, the final output tables were things like fact orders, daily sales summaries, and customer purchase summaries. Then I used SQL on top of those curated tables to answer questions like top products by revenue, repeated customers, and month-over-month sales trends. That's strong because now the interviewer sees the full chain: source, storage, transformation, output, and then uses. That's a real data engineering story. And now comes the most underrated part. Mention one challenge, one trade-off, or one thing that got messy. This is where your explanation stops sounding like a YouTube tutorial and starts sounding like a real work. You can say something like, one challenge was delayed source data, so I had to think about reruns and how to avoid creating duplicate outputs. Or, if I scale this further, I would want better orchestration, data quality checks, and more reliable incremental loading. That single sentence adds depth. Because real projects are not I built X. They are I built X, and this is where I had to think. That's what interviewers trust. Now let's talk about the cross questions because this is where people usually get exposed. Once you explain your project well, the interviewer often asks, why did you choose Spark? A weak answer is because Spark is used for big data. A better answer is I choose Spark because the project was built around transformation and joining multiple datasets, and Spark is a strong fit when data volume or distributed processing becomes relevant. Notice the difference. You're not giving a slogan, you're giving a reason. Another common question, how do you handle data quality? Don't say, I check the data. A better answer is, I handle data quality by cleaning nulls, filtering invalid records, and making sure joins didn't create unexpected duplicates. This sounds like someone who thought through the pipeline. Another one, how would you rerun the pipeline safely? This is where people panic. A good answer is, I would warn the pipeline to be idempotent where possible, so reruns don't create duplicate count. That means being careful with how files are written and how output tables are refreshed. Again, calm, real, and useful. Another cross question, how would you improve if this project had to run in production? This is a very good one. A smart answer would be, I would add orchestration, monitoring, data quality checks, and better incremental handling. I would also think about partitioning and cost if the dataset became much longer. That's a strong answer because it shows growth mindset and production awareness. So let's wrap this up simply. A strong data engineering project explanation should cover five things: the problem, the source and raw layer, the transformation logic, the final output, and one real challenge or improvement. If you can explain these five parts cleanly, your project starts sounding like engineering work, not just a list of tools you touched. And that alone can seriously improve how you perform in interviews. If you want common project, and I will make part 2 on the exact cross questions interviewers ask after your project explanation. And if you're getting interviews but you're freezing in the room, watch the next video. I break down mock data engineering interview scenarios and how to answer them like a real data engineer. If this helped, subscribe. I am building this channel around practical data engineering content that helps you to get better at projects, interviews, and career decisions without all the fake hype. This is all for today. We'll meet in the next video. Till then, keep learning and keep building. Bye bye.